5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Over the 3-hour mark, it won't be.
Hello everyone and welcome to my video about running Vancouver Marathon in 2024. It was a fantastic race, an amazing experience, and I consider myself very lucky because I also had my wife with me who was able to ride alongside of me and on a big chunk of the course, create a great footage, and I want to share it with you today. It was a fantastic race and a tough one, very tough one. I have to admit, it didn't have to be, and at the same time I still managed a great, huge, almost 11 minutes PB. I want to talk about it. Also, I made quite a few mistakes, and at the same time there were a lot of things that went really well for me, so I want to cover all that, and I also want to talk about what happened pre-race, the race expo experience, and of course the actual race day. All right, let's get to it. Vancouver Marathon is a very scenic, very beautiful course. It's one of the world's most beautiful ones, and also it has the longest uninterrupted waterfront. And it's a bucket list marathon for sure. It's also a Boston qualifier, so for anyone who wants to run Boston, if you can make your time and qualify for Boston in this one, then you'll have a strong race in Boston for sure. It is also very challenging, very similar, it's very hilly, so make sure you are prepared. You're also going to be training through the winter time because it's happening the first week of May, and it sells out. It sells out. Register early because there's no beep transfer allowed, so take note of that. A little bit about personal background. So this was my marathon number 3, and I was already done 2 marathons by the time, and the previous marathon happened in October of the previous year in 2023. It was in Toronto, waterfront marathon, where I ran 3 hours, 17 minutes and 20 seconds. It was a great race then, but at the same time I thought that because I already got my Boston qualifying time with comfortable 7 minutes and 40 seconds buffer based on my age group, that I decided, okay, marathon in Vancouver doesn't have to be really hard, really tough, because I can run relaxed. But my training went super well, was super pumped, and in the end I felt really strong, so I thought I could probably go for more. And the training was pretty standard, 16 weeks with 7 to 10 hours of training weekly with 7 days per week. Then I also did a tune-up race, which went super well for me, 35 kilometers in Hamilton, 6 weeks out, and the result was 2 hours and 35 minutes, which meant that if I projected that to the full marathon distance, I would finish it in 3 hours and 6 minutes. I thought, hey, this is a great result, and I still have whole months of training where I pushed it further. I felt like I could run sub 3 hour times, and yeah, that's how the idea of running faster came. Now you'll know what happened to me during that after you watch this video. 2024 was great time for me to try something new and first race away from home. Because really, you have to consider, you have to be prepared when you go away. You have to take all the gear, all the nutrition, everything that you run with, think everything through, not forget anything. Yeah, this is an important experience, and I think this was very successful. It starts and ends in different locations. The start is in Queen Elizabeth Park, and it finishes in downtown on a West Bender Street, where there is a slight uphill in the end. And this is quite a hilly course, with most of it in the first half, most of the bigger hills. So it starts with a pretty easy 8 kilometers on the higher ground, goes a little bit down, a couple insignificant hills, but after that, this is the biggest hill that you'll face on the 8th kilometer, and it goes for about 2 kilometers with 7 grade incline. And yeah, it's really challenging hill. And after that, 8 kilometers of relatively flat and another 2 kilometers descent. 2 kilometers of similar steepness as the uphill. And there you go, you're on a halfway mark. And then the next biggest hill is the Runvan Bridge. And in between there's just some insignificant bumps. And after that there goes Stanley Park. 10 kilometers of flat terrain, and only after that you will be finishing it with the uphill in the downtown. And lastly is the watch. The GPS on that course was working fantastic. There were no interruptions, and you can reliably use GPS and splits. What I use is Garmin Fenix 7X. One of the greatest features that Garmin has that I already tried on the previous marathon was Race Pro tools. Race Pro takes into consideration the elevation, and it can make you run easier on elevation by adjusting your pace uphill as well as downhill. You will be running a little bit faster. And then you can also choose to make it even splits or negative splits, whatever you want. I decided I configured it time of 2 hours, 59 minutes and 30 seconds. So now you can see it on the screen. So it has the splits for the first half, for the second half. So it shows when I had to run faster, when I was supposed to run a little bit slower. But we arrived on Friday and the race is on Saturday. Between Vancouver and Toronto, there's a 3 hours difference. We decided to still leave on Toronto time because that gives us an advantage. It gives me an advantage. I'll be able to rest more before the race time, because if the race starts at 8:30, that is 11:30 Toronto time, which is very, very comfortable to get enough sleep before the race. Now, as far as choosing where to stay, I was thinking about it because the race start and end, they are in different locations. So I decided to be closer to the finish line and to the Expo. And also, to be honest, love that area, English Bay area. So this is where I chose to stay, to book a hotel. It was near the course because the course was there was a couple of kilometer of marathon course go nearby, and that was a great chance to explore the course a little bit. Next morning we went for a shakeout run. It was just a very easy 4 kilometers run and a little bit on a marathon course. I saw a lot of runners. Everybody were doing the same thing, a shakeout run, so much excitement, and I felt so rested, I felt so ready. I couldn't wait for the race next day. We walked to the Expo, which was a couple of kilometers away, and the atmosphere was electric, so much buzz. The lines were pretty long, but at the same time they were moving very fast. Everything organized was very efficient, and I quickly found where to get it. They just checked the ID, and of course it's super exciting to hold it in my hands. Next I did a ring it just to make sure it works. Of course we all want our chip time to register correctly. I had so much fun at the Expo. There's been so much merchandise. We did spend a little money there, and we enjoyed the whole atmosphere. When I was back at the hotel, I felt pretty tired. It was about 20,000 steps that day, and I think it's too much. If you want to do a shakeout run, at least try to avoid picking up the bib the day before the race, or try to avoid both of these things just to keep the freshness in the legs, because I felt it next day for sure. The race starts pretty late at 8:30 a.m. and I was already up by 6 a.m. and I felt pretty rested since we were on Toronto time. All I needed to do is put my gear on and have a light meal. So this is my typical routine, easy breakfast, oatmeal with some kind of berries and bananas. Then I had to put a long sleeves because my arms typically get pretty cold in such a weather. And for the first time, I was wearing my Nike Alpha Flies 3, which I purchased specifically to wear for the first time in this race. I tested them, of course. They felt really amazing. The night before, I called a taxi and I checked that Uber was surprisingly more expensive. And by 6:50 a.m., I was waiting that in the lobby. Waiting for a cab in the lobby. Exciting. Taxi arrived on time at 6:50 a.m. and I was trying to avoid all the road closures because half marathon was starting at 7 a.m. and I was there pretty early on time. And here's my crew of one, my wife Anna, who was biking directly to the course to take the video footage. At 7:10 a.m. I was there and the half marathon already started. And I already witnessed the second wave taking off. What I didn't expect that there were no warm-up centers, and I didn't have enough layers on me, so I was really literally shivering and I had to hide for 15 minutes or so in a porta potty to just get warm. And after that I started my warm-up and I felt much better. 22 minutes to start. Now, of course, we used to do this ritual, going to the washroom. And so many people, but it's pretty good organized.
2 miles later, all that eccentric loading, your quads are fried. And it's a struggle getting.
It was getting close to the start time and I didn't feel it was too crowded. It was actually pretty easy to go around the area and I started making my way towards my corral, black corral, which is fastest corral right in the beginning. Again, I had no issues getting there. Soon there was the time to take my first caffeinated gel, and while I was taking it, I was listening to National Anthem. I think it digested better. I was pretty excited and nervous.
2, 1.
It was the first time when I was so close to the start line and I felt goosebumps by watching the only wheelchair athletes taking off as well as the elites doing their final warm-up. It was a really cool feeling. I was getting a bit more and more nervous and at the same time I was super pumped. I saw a lot of athletes in the same shoes that I am. That was also pretty cool. And the final preparation, everybody are looking at their watches.
1 minute to start, everybody.
And there was the countdown.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The first 8 kilometers were as easy as I expected, and I was sticking to Race Pro pacing plan and even building a small buffer.
To the plan. Heart rate is under 160 or 162. Cool game.
The only hiccup I had, I got a small rock in my shoe which made squeaking sound, so I had to stop and retrieve it, but it didn't get me off my pace. Now this section of the course has to be taken the most serious in the first half. This is the most demanding, this huge hill which is 2 kilometers long, and it's very demanding. My Race Pro tool had me run this section slower, but I still couldn't keep up. In the beginning I was doing okay, then had to drop the pace. I had a buffer about 30 seconds prior getting to this hill, but then by the time I reached the top, the whole buffer that I built evaporated. This footage that you see here was taken by my wife, who was riding along this course. She was behind, she was trying to catch up with me, and this hill was so demanding that at some point she noticed that the runners were even faster than her, even though she was with runners that were in the second wave, slower runners. But it was very difficult. She had to dismantle and just simply walk. Later on, she just decided to take a shortcut and finally catch up with me at about 24th kilometer mark. I believe the trickiest part of this section is not the actual ascent, but what happens after. Everyone would eventually make to the top, but then there will be another 8 kilometers where everybody would recover. However, what follows is 2 kilometers of descent, similar steepness, and this is what is very, very dangerous, because this is where the legs can be shot, because it's tricky on the quads, and I got carried away. I ran too fast trying to rebuild my buffer. That was a big mistake. So here was the halfway point mark, 1 hour 29 and 20 seconds, which was my PB by the time, and fantastic pace, really great splits. So far so good. After the struggles with the hill on the bike, Anna was eventually able to make a great shortcut and be ahead of everyone, even the leader of the race. I was still on track for sub 3 hour time. I thought that the worst was behind. Yes, it was the hilliest part, but it wasn't the most difficult, because the way I ran the first half of the marathon, it was just too fast for my form. I started feeling my legs to be heavier and heavier, and I started feeling that I needed to drop the pace. They say that marathon starts at 32nd kilometer, and that is true, but not in every race. And in this particular race, I started to feel it really after 24th kilometer. I kind of started suffering, and that became stronger and stronger. This is the moment when I had to reassess my goals, what I can still achieve in this race, and it could be at the price of not finishing it, or at the price of hitting the wall, or potentially getting some sort of injury. So my priorities were to finish it. I knew that it's still going to be a really great result, much faster than the previous marathon. I started to feel that my heart rate monitors was sliding, and I had to fix it multiple times until such moment when I couldn't do it anymore. It was slipping to my belly, and was really annoying. So I was lucky that my wife was riding alongside, so she could take it from me. I was trying to mentally cheer myself up, and when I saw little spectators along the course, I was happy to do some high-fiving. That gave me a little bit of an extra boost, and I knew that would definitely make those little guys happy. I had 7 gels total prepared for this for the race, with 1 gel already taken before the start, and I was alternating my gels with caffeinated. I was taking them every 30 minutes or so, but after I took the first gel, I decided to take them more often, as I felt like I needed more energy sooner. I was still learning how to drink from the 8 stations. And that is the reason I was still wearing the hydration vest this time with electrolytes in it. I only was drinking the water. I was still learning how to drink it on the go, not spilling much. And I wasn't doing a fantastic job, but I wasn't doing too bad either. Here I was approaching a Granville Bridge on the 29th kilometer mark. This was the last serious effort. It was about 20 meters elevation, and that was the last obstacle before the flat section in Stanley Park. Usually when I run, I'm quite locked in. I don't really see runners around me. I'm trying to follow my pace, but and this time, with legs becoming heavier and heavier, I was more listening to my body, and I was completely oblivious to who was around me. Well, except that I definitely knew that my wife was still riding alongside, and I was very lucky, and I was very happy about this. From the top of the Granville Bridge, next couple of kilometers, we had a gradual descent. Of course, it was much greater than going up the hill, but you would still feel it in your quads because it's already 30th kilometer, and the legs are already pretty tired. I was approaching the beautiful Stanley Park section. It was just about 1.5 kilometers away, and unfortunately cyclists were not allowed there, so my wife had to cut to the finish line and wait me there, and she couldn't continue with video footage. But there were a lot of photographers there, and every time I saw a photographer, I felt a boost of energy. I was able to smile, and I wish there were just more photographers, because even though I was struggling, but I always was able to smile, and the pictures turned out really good. The whole reason why I chose running Vancouver Marathon was the very section I was approaching to, a gorgeous, spectacular Stanley Park. And its mesmerizing seawall, I was anticipating running through it, but I couldn't enjoy any of it. Not that I was in pain, no, but the continuous effort to keep the pace was just harder and harder to do. Mermaid statue and a sea wash rock and a lighthouse, all these beautiful landmarks, it was all a blur for me. But I was digging deep to keep going, and I wasn't quitting. The main thing was to avoid hitting the wall. There were a few aid stations there, and I had to make a huge effort to start running again every time I stopped for a drink. And I thought to try some mantras or something to disconnect a little from the general fatigue, but I didn't realize that it also required so much energy, so I just decided to forget it. And I wish I was that mermaid, because it would have been much easier just to sit there and see the runners passing through. Every kilometer marker was a huge win, and the closer I was getting to the finish, the more I was thinking about not to cramp. I was constantly assessing how I felt, making sure the legs are okay. And checking my watch in the Race Pro, it showed that I was sliding further and further from my time goal. But I didn't care anymore, so I thought 10 minutes and it's over, and 5 minutes and I'm done. Just hang in there, keep pushing. The final climb was a gradual uphill. It was probably about maybe 20 meters and extra elevation on the legs, which didn't have anything. Yeah, it did sting. But all the people around, all the spectators, I kind of felt their energy, and they were pulling me, they were helping me to cross the finish line. It was my third marathon, and all of them were finishing in the uphill.
Scott McCracken, Vladimir Vesky from Richmond Hill, Ontario, Theo Paul from Vancouver, we got Wei.
And finally, a big relief. So as a result, I had 11 minutes PB, and the second half I finished with 8 minutes positive split. It was 1 hour and 37 minutes with 4:37 per kilometer pace, and overall 3:06:48 time.
Did it! Please put the hat, collect your water, food, and other refreshments. Remember to collect your
Congratulations, seriously, for completing the BMO Vancouver Marathon. That is so incredible.
Look, as a title sponsor of the event, Bank of Montreal extends a special congratulations to you.
And thanks, of course, to all the volunteers and spectators.
6:06. To collect water, food, and other refreshments. Remember to collect commemorative photos for your check.
What a killer second half. It's absolutely nuts. Oh. PB on the first half, second half on just remaining what's left. That's still, I'm happy with the result. I'll take it. 10 minutes PB.
So after I had the refreshments, I met my wife here, who brought me warm clothing and warm pants. Then when I was changing, my feet were cramping like crazy, so I'm lucky they didn't cramp during the race. And the mistake I didn't bring spare shoes, so I had to walk all the way to the hotel in the racing shoes, which wasn't very pleasant to do. Some celebrations were in order, and they also offered a massage in the area, free massage, even though they only just used a massage gun. But still, it was quite nice just to lie down and to have your feet massaged and just to relax a little bit. So it was a fantastic race, fantastic experience, and of course we need to mention the takeaways, some wins and some misses. And the main wins were, I had a PB, it's a great progress, it's almost 11 minutes PB. Yes, I didn't hit sub 3, which I was dreaming about this time, but I'm not worried, sub 3 will come. Then there were no GI issues, I didn't have to make toilet stops. I hit no wall, I had no cramps, pacing was done right, I was running by feel, and I dropped the pace when it was needed. The shoes, also a great choice, I felt that they helped me a lot, but when you're gonna be choosing your shoes, make sure you have enough space for your toes in the shoebox, because when there are as many downhills as in this course, you may get a black toenail just because your toes will be hitting the wall in your shoe. The weather was great, we got lucky, it was a fantastic temperature. Organization, amazing, everything was done very smooth. Expo, navigation in the course, 8 stations. Yeah, I loved everything, and a massage in the end also was fantastic. And I learned to drink water from the water stations. Again, I'm new, this is kind of my beginning of my journey, that's what I have to learn everything, and this is just the next step. And also the location, I'm happy with with the location of our hotel. It was closer to the finish line, a beautiful area, and we stayed on Toronto time. These were all fantastic wins and good decisions. Then, of course, the misses. I didn't have warm layers. I was cold and shivering before the start, so this was a miscalculation. So bring some extra layers. And if you have someone with you, it's easy to give it to them when the race starts, or just buy some cheap throwaway layers. I didn't plan correctly. The whole pacing plan was even splits, but I think this course should be planned with negative split, because the first half is harder it's hilly, but then the second half is more flat. So you gotta be fresher if you run the first half not as fast. Then I made too many steps in the day before the race. So try choosing, if you can, not to pick up the bib the same day, or not to do the shakeout run. I think in the end, I could have had more freshness if I didn't take as many steps as I did. And I didn't have any shoes to change after the race. I had the change of clothing, but I didn't have shoes. So I think this could be an improvement. Will I come back to improve the result? Well, maybe, because I love the course. I probably would like to run it again to appreciate the Stanley Park and to enjoy it a lot more, and be better prepared with better pacing plan. But next few years I'm focusing on majors. This is my aspirations and this is what I'm planning to do. But you never know, maybe in a few years I'll come back to run it again. Beautiful, beautiful course. If you like this video, let me know in the comments, and subscribe if you want to know when the new video is available. I'm new to YouTube and I'm very, very passionate about sharing my experience about running, and I'm new to running as well. Although I've been running for a few years now, I have plans to do more majors. I already ran Chicago and Honolulu, and in 2025 my next marathon is Boston. So I'm planning to share and create videos about my experience running these great races, great courses. So stay tuned and run healthy. Cheers. I made it.